Hey, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of the Bullpen with Adam the Bull, brought to you by Bet Rivers. We got a ton to get to today. We look back to the Thursday night football game between the Packers and the Lions, and we'll look ahead to every game on the Sunday schedule this week. And I'm going to give you all my picks as I do every week. I'm leading the Bet Rivers picks through 3 weeks, but Mike Missinelli, who had a big 5-0 week last week, has moved into a tie with me for the lead. So I got to keep my lead. I can't mess around, and I got to get all my picks right, or at least most of them for you. I'm hitting it at 2/3 clip so far. So we'll get to all of that on today's edition of the Bullpen with Adam the Bull, brought to you by Bet Rivers. All right, just a sec. I'm going to get to a big battle in the AFC North between the Browns and the Ravens, both teams 2-1 in this one. And I'm going to look at every game this week. But I want to begin with last night's game between the Green Bay Packers and the Detroit Lions. You know, it's funny, and I'm sure I'm not, I know I'm not the only one that has this reaction. But obviously, when you watch a game that doesn't involve teams that you root for specifically, that you may care about individually, you watch them sometimes with a different eye, right? Because like I watched last night's game between Detroit and Green Bay. I don't care who wins the game. I just wanted to go because I had a ton of fantasy players in this, and I play in probably too many fantasy leagues. But in the league I care about the most, I had 3 guys on the Lions. So I wanted the Lions to win because that meant they would score a lot of points in theory. But I didn't want them to win by too much because all the guys I have on the Lions are all in the passing game. It's a 2-quarterback league. So I have, Jared Goff, and then I have Amon-Ra St. Brown, and I have Sam Laporta, the tight end. So I'm like, okay. And they all got off to great starts. Like by the second quarter, I'm like, all right, massive night. But of course, the Lions are up so big that they don't. So you watch these games a little differently. Whether you're gambling on them, whether you're betting the point spreads here with Bet Rivers, playing fantasy, whatever it is, that's what you're doing. And a lot of people, let's be honest, part of the reason the NFL has become the monster that it is gambling. Is because the NFL is the easiest and most fun sport to bet on. That's pretty simple. And we love making our bets. We love playing fantasy. That's a big part of the watching experience or listening experience when it comes to these games. And so Detroit blows out Green Bay. A 34-20 is the final. Lions look great in the first half. Packers with a turnover late that kind of you felt like if they had moved the ball there in the second quarter and gotten something done when they were down 14, 17-3 at the time, maybe they could have made this a game, but it never really happened. Kudos to David Montgomery of the Lions. He didn't even play last week due to injury. He had a pretty big game. I'm surprised they used him as much as they did. It's so funny. I don't understand teams. Like, drafting a running back in the first round these days seems like a crazy move. So they make this commitment and draft Jahmyr Gibbs in the first round, and now they're not. Nah, he got used, but he did. David Montgomery's their lead back, and you already had David Montgomery on the roster when the draft happened. In the NFL, free agency happens first, and then the draft comes. So it's odd to me. Maybe it's a disconnect between the GM and the and the coach. I don't know, but I mean, it's not like Jahmyr Gibbs is buried on the bench. He's just not being used as much. And to be honest, he hasn't been overly efficient in the first 4 games. But I don't know. I think if I draft a running back in the first round, I'm going to use him. It's not like another position where kind of things take time to develop. And some parts of your game in terms of blitz pickup and some of those things do take time to develop. Guys get better, but running back is a position where if you're good, you're good, usually right away. And you get used a lot right away because, let's face it, comes down to money, and teams want to use you up before you get to that next contract, and then they can move on. But anyway, in terms of the game, Jordan Love could not make the big comeback like he did last week. He threw 2 picks in this one. Jared Goff threw a pick early, played solid the rest of the way. They didn't ask him really to do anything in the second half. And the Lions improved to 3-1, including 2-0 on the road. and they are in first place now in the NFC North, a division that many people picked them to win. Speaking of making picks, get extra value this football season with Bet Rivers Squares. Win up to $10,000 in bonus money. $10,000. Bet $10 in same game parlays on any game with the Squares icon to earn a square. All right, that was a look back at what happened yesterday. Now let's look forward. Let's get into it. The Browns and the Ravens, CBS, 1 p.m. The Browns have had a very favorable schedule in terms of home road to start the season. This will give them 3 out of 4 games at home to start the season. They're on a bye next week, and then they're at home again for the 49ers. So in the first 6 weeks of the season, the Browns will have 4 home games, 1 road game in Pittsburgh, which is less than a 2-hour drive, and a bye. That's it. So the Browns traveling is saved for later in the season. Could turn out to not be a great thing, but in the early portion of the season, it is a big thing for the Browns. Browns are 2-0 at home. The Ravens are 1-0 on the road. Browns coming off a great win last week against Tennessee. The Ravens coming off a pretty bad loss in their game, losing in overtime to the Colts. It was a really bad performance, and I thought some bad coaching decisions, some bad performances by both the offense and the defense, but especially the offense. The latest Bet Rivers line on this game between the Ravens and the Browns is 3. Browns are a 3-point favorite at home. Browns have moved up to I think they're tied the last night when I was looking at the odds to win the Super Bowl. The Browns were actually tied for 9th going into last night's game with the Lions. So people here at Bet Rivers, we're starting to believe in the Browns, and a lot of people are too. And that's mostly because of the defense, which has been historically great through 3 weeks into the season, but also because for the first time in a long time, Deshaun Watson showed at least the possibility that he could be back to being the quarterback that he was. He had not played a good game for the Browns in the 6 games last year or the first 2 games this season, but he played a very good game this past week against Tennessee. And I think the question heading into this game with Baltimore in a division rivalry at home against a good but not great Ravens defense is, can he do it again? And then their biggest question will be in 3 weeks, or I guess 2 weeks, 16 days. Will he be able to do it against San Francisco, who's one of the best defensive teams in the league? To me, it's fascinating. And a couple of things. The Browns are total touchdowns by the Browns in this game. Over 2.5 touchdowns is plus 123. I kind of love the Browns on that. I'm expecting them to score 3 touchdowns in this game to get plus money with the favorite. I just think the Ravens defense is consistently overrated because they're the Ravens. I think there's some of that with the Steelers as well. So I like that at Bet Rivers at plus 123. In terms of the passing yards, Deshaun Watson over 251.5 is minus 114. I like that. I like Lamar Jackson under 245.5 at minus 113. So obviously you could tell which way I'm leaning in this game. I do think the Browns are going to win. You know, people here in Cleveland are going bananas about the defense. I am a believer in the Browns defense. You got to do it much longer than 3 games and against better opponents. Before we start talking about historic defenses, you got to win and play dominant when it matters. But so far, the Browns defense is just over the top. Great. Nobody's hurt. They're completely healthy on the defensive side of the ball. And they're playing great. And I think what's interesting is that the Ravens present a challenge to the Browns defense that they haven't had yet. They haven't faced a mobile quarterback. Joe Burrow's got athleticism, but he's hurt. He's not moving. I shouldn't say he's hurt. He's playing, but he doesn't have the movement that he would normally have. He was 100% healthy. So, and clearly Kenny Pickett and Brian Tannehill, those are not great mobile quarterbacks. We know what Lamar Jackson can do. He is the best He's the most athletic quarterback in the entire National Football League. So I think it's an interesting challenge for the Browns. Do they put Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, their quickest linebacker, as a spy on him? Do they put Grant Delpit, their safety, who's played really well so far this year, as a spy on him? Or do they, as they've done everything so far, make it a team effort and not single out one guy, say, hey, you got to keep an eye on Lamar? And can they get there with the front four and some blitzing to make Lamar uncomfortable? Like many quarterbacks, Lamar struggles under pressure. There's no doubt about it. So it's an interesting matchup there, which I expect the Browns to win, and why it's ultimately I expect the Browns to win the game. I've got them winning 24 to 13 is the final score. That's what I got. I got the Browns winning big. So I would take obviously I'd lay the 3 with the Browns. To me, that's a no-brainer is a little strong. The Ravens are a good team. It's not like the Browns have proven time and time again that they are. All right, let's keep going. There is a first game in England, which I love. I don't care that it's in England. I mean, it's cool for the people there, but I like it because it opens another window of games, and that's or of a game. 9:30 Sunday morning. Remember, if you're thinking about betting this game on Bet Rivers, if you're thinking about playing fantasy, set your lineups before 9:30. They're playing in London. Falcons, Jaguars. The Falcons have played pretty well so far. They're 2-1. They did blow that game last week. The Jaguars have been a huge disappointment so far. Again, huge, maybe a little strong since only 3 games, and they are 1-2. But their offense, which was so prolific late last season, has been a big disappointment so far this year. The Jags are a 3-point favorite in this game, and I am leaning Jacksonville's way. I am a big-time believer in Trevor Lawrence. I believed in him even when he stunk his first year under Urban Meyer. I believed in him as he struggled a little early last season. He had a great second half. He had a pretty solid first game this year. Last 2 weeks, it hasn't gone as well. I think he bounces back. The Falcons, as long as they have a bad quarterback situation, I'm not a believer. So I'm going with Jacksonville in this one in London. It's kind of like a home game. I mean, Jacksonville seems to go there every year. So Falcons, Jags, I'm going with the Jaguars minus the 3. Bengals, Titans, 1:00 game. This one on Fox. Bengals are a 2.5-point favorite in Tennessee. The Bengals lost their first road game, of course, in Cleveland. They've been at home the last 2 weeks, and now they go back on the road. Titans' lone win is at home. Now, we saw the Titans struggle to pass protect Ryan Tannehill, who's a statue. The Bengals' pass rush was big time Monday night against the Rams. Joe Burrow has progressively played a little better. Again, he's not played great this season. Obviously, the calf is a factor, but, he's got to play better, and they've got to play better. T. Higgins was terrible last week against the Rams, dropping balls I've never seen him drop before. Joe Mixon's playing well for the Bengals. He's averaging 4 yards a carry right now, and they need to give him more work. 4 yards a carry is not great, but that's not all on him, and I think he needs to get more work, both in the passing game and in the running game. They need to be more aggressive using him. They can't – right now, the way Joe Burrow is struggling, they need to be a little more balanced than they have been in the past. Fascinating game in Buffalo on Sunday. Dolphins and Bills. Bills are a 2.5-point favorite in this one at home. It's pretty unusual for a team to score 70 the week before and be an underdog the following week, but obviously Buffalo's played great the last 2 weeks, and the last 2 weeks they've beaten up their opponents. Actually, I'm looking at the latest Bet Rivers line. It's now up to 3, so the Bills are a 3-point favorite, and that's a big move from 2.5 to 3. I'm leaning with the Dolphins on this one. I'm trying not to get myself brainwashed by the 70 points last week. We had a debate on our TV show, what's more impressive, the Dolphins offense or the Browns defense? And I went with the Browns defense because I think everything got a little skewed from this week's performance. But even though Buffalo's played well, they haven't looked quite themselves. And I think this is a game that ends up being real close. I think they're pretty even. I know the game's in Buffalo, but it's not like weather's a factor. It's not like they're playing in November or December and it's going to be 20 degrees and the Bills are used to that. That's not the case. So I'm going to go with Miami in this one. You know what? I got to look at something now because I think, hold on here. I think that I'm changing my pick. And the reason I'm changing my pick is because I think no, okay. I was confusing myself. I thought I had picked the Bills already somewhere, but I did not. So disregard that last 10 seconds. I'm sticking with the Dolphins. I was like, did I pick the Bills for our Bet Rivers picks? And I was like, I don't think so. I can't switch it now if I did, but I did. So I'm glad because I do like the Dolphins. All right, the games we did pick with Bet Rivers, the Browns were one of them. Let's go to the other Bet Rivers picks that'll be up there this week against my fellow competitors. The next one is the Bears. So this game is fascinating. The Bears are playing the Broncos. Remember, the Broncos gave up 70 to Miami. The Bears got demolished by Kansas City. Both teams got humiliated. Both teams are terrible. They're 0-3. This game was a tricky pick because I think both teams stink. Now, the consensus seems to be, because the Bears are, even though both teams are 0-3, that the Bears are even worse because they've got just beyond awful quarterback play from Justin Fields. And they've showed very little life in any of these games. But now, I went with this theory last week and it didn't work because I didn't like the Jets and I didn't like the Patriots. I said, if it's two bad teams, I'll go with the home team. This one, I like it even more. I'm going with the Bears. Yes, the Bears. Because they're at home and they're getting more than a field goal at home against a team that gave up 70. Now, I don't think Denver's defense is obviously as bad as it played last week, but I think there's major problems on that team. Sean Payton, I didn't like the fit when he went there. It doesn't seem to be working well. It felt like they quit last week. The Bears stink. But so do the Broncos. I'll take the Bears at home. Next Bet Rivers pick. I love this one. I like the way the Texans are playing. I really do. Their quarterback, C.J. Stroud, the former Buckeye, has played really well. 3 games in, he's completed 65% of his passes, has thrown for over 900 yards, has 4 touchdowns and no picks. I mean, that's pretty remarkable for a rookie on a not great team. But their passing game has been awesome. Nico Collins and Tank Dell, the rookie, have been absolutely great. And I like the way their offense is playing. Now, do I love their defense? No. But I don't love Pittsburgh. The Texans are at home. Everybody's going to be picking this deal. I bet you I'm the only one. My prediction is I'm the only one at Bet Rivers. When you see the picks come out, which will probably be sometime today, I bet you I'm the only one taking the Texans with the points. But they're at home. And listen, the Steelers are 2-1. I loathe to give them any credit. I picked them last week. I thought they'd win, and they did. But the Texans are a feisty team right now. They got their first win last week. They've been in all these games, they've been in 2 of the 3 games. And I think they're getting better, and then they're building confidence off C.J. Stroud, who will finally become the first good Buckeye quarterback because Justin Fields ain't it. The Cowboys are playing at 425 against the Patriots. I actually thought the spread might be lower. It's 6.5. The Cowboys obviously played a terrible game last week, losing to Arizona. But quietly, Arizona is played pretty well. I mean, they blew that game to the Giants. They should have won that game. They'd be 2-1 right now. I said last week, I think New England stinks. I know they're pretty good defensively, but they're not great. Offensively, they're a mess. Mac Jones can't play. He can't play. He's not any good. I'm taking Dallas at home in this one. And the final Bet Rivers pick is Philadelphia. Love the Eagles at home against the Commanders. It's hard to pick. It's a lot of points, but they're at home. The Commanders crashed back to earth last week. Listen, I think the Commanders are a decent team. I picked them to be the 7 seed in the playoffs, but only because you have to have somebody, and the NFC stinks. The Eagles don't. The Eagles and Niners are head and shoulders above the rest of the NFC, and the Eagles will show it Sunday at 1 o'clock. Lay the 9 with the Eagles. All right, rapid fire to the other games that we have not hit on yet. I will taking the Vikings to get their first win over Carolina. They've been in all these games. They should not be 0-3. They're not that bad. Their offense is really good. I'll lay the 4.5 with Minnesota on the road in Carolina. Rams and Colts. It's a pick'em game in Indianapolis. It's a tough one to call, but it's a 1 o'clock game. West Coast team coming east. The Colts don't feel like a 3-1 team, but their defense has been pretty solid. They've run the ball great with Zach Moss. The Rams have a major problem right now protecting the quarterback. It's progressively gotten worse each week for the Rams. I'm going to take the Colts in the pick'em game at home. I think they're even teams, so I think the Colts should be favored since they're at home in this one, so I'll go with the Colts. I look for the Saints to win at home. I'll lay the 3.5 against the Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield doesn't play well against good defenses. The Saints have a good defense. The Saints will cover. And finally, I got 3 more Sunday games. Raiders at the Chargers. Chargers favored by 5. Both teams 1-2. How Brandon Staley still has his job with the Chargers, I don't know. They did get their first win last week. They got very lucky. A stupid coaching decision by him. They are baffling every year, but the Raiders are even worse coached. Josh McDaniels is probably the worst coach in the NFL. I'll take the Chargers at home. I'll lay the 5. Cardinals at the 49ers. I'm the spread is 14 points. This one is listen, I pick all the games here, so I'll pick it. I'll tell you this. This one to me is a stay away. I like that the Cardinals have been feisty, but no matter what the spread, it's hard to pick against the Niners right now. They're just firing on all cylinders. I love the way Brock Purdy is playing. He doesn't turn the ball over, and he's not just a manager. He's better than that. Christian McCaffrey is the best running back in football. It's not debatable. Deebo Samuel's playing great. They'll have Brandon Ayuk back this week. Kittle is healthy, and their defense is sensational. Again, it wouldn't surprise me if the Cardinals covered, but I can't pick against the Niners. But if I had to, this would be the one game I wouldn't want to pick because I could see them just winning by 10. The Niners don't, they run a lot and the clock goes. And they don't blow teams out like crazy, but if I had to pick, I'll take the Niners. We'll save the Monday game. The Monday game is Seattle and the Giants. Ugh, what an awful. You know what? I'll pick that game now too. Lay the 8.5 with the Chiefs on the road. As long as Zach Wilson is playing, I'm never picking the Jets again. And I'll go with the Giants at home, getting a point against Seattle. I think the Giants pull off the victory, and both teams will be 2-2. All right, that's it for this edition of the Bullpen with Adam the Bull. Thanks to all of you for watching. Thanks to Brian Monzo for producing. I'll talk to you on the Sunday recap show. Going to be big. We'll talk Browns, Titans, and a whole lot more on Sunday. Talk to you Monday as well. Where else but right here in the Bullpen with Adam the Bull, brought to you by Bet Rivers. See ya.